Magic and science are total opposites, with the former based on hidden sympathies between objects, and an alternative approach associated with sociologists emphasizes an opposition between magic and religion. Many scholars of religion have rejected the utility of the term magic, arguing that it is arbitrary and it has become increasingly unpopular with the scholars. Well, I'm so sorry. Some things you cannot explain by science. It's just like portals. How can you explain that with science? To a point you can, I would think. But I think most of all, it's magic, okay? The term comes from the Old Persian maju, a word applied to a form of religious functionary about which little is known. During the late 6th century, this term was adopted into ancient Greek, where it was used with negative connotations to apply to religious rites that were regarded as fraudulent, unconventional, and dangerous. The meaning of the term was then adopted in Latin, and the concept was incorporated during the 1st century, where magic was associated with demons, and thus it was against the religion, Christian religion. This concept was pervasive throughout the Middle Ages, of course, when Christian authors categorized practices such as enchantment and divination under the label of magic. In early modern Europe, Italian humanists reinterpreted the term in a positive sense to establish the idea of natural magic. Both negative and positive understandings of the term were retained in Western culture over the centuries. There have been examples of individuals who engage in practices that their societies called magic, and who sometimes refer to themselves as magicians. Within modern occultism, there are many self-described magicians and people who practice magic. In this environment, the concept of magic has again changed, usually being defined as a technique for bringing about changes in the physical world through the force of one's will. This definition was pioneered largely by the British occultist Aleister Crowley, which we all know, most of us do, who had been influenced by various magic-related discussions and personal practices. Mr. Aleister Crowley, yes. Modern Western magic has challenged widely held preconceptions about religion and spirituality. The discourses about magic influence the self-understanding modern magicians, a number of whom, such as Aleister Crowley and Julius Evola, were well versed in academic literature on the subject. Arguably the best known emic definition of the term magic was provided by Crowley. He favored the spelling M-A-G-I-C-K over the modern version M-A-G-I-C. He preferred the I-C-K at the end. He was one of the view that magic is a science and art of causing change to occur with will. Crowley's definition influenced that of subsequent magicians. Dion Fortune, the Fraternity of the Inner Light, for instance, stated that magic is the art of changing consciousness according to will. Gerald Gardner, the founder of Gardnerian Wicca, stated that magic was attempting to cause the physically unusual, while Anton LaVey, the founder of LaVeyan Satanism, described magic as a change in situations or events in accordance with one's will, which would, using normally acceptable methods, be unchangeable. These concepts of magic rely on a belief connected to an unknown occult force that permeates the universe. Okay. And this operated according to a new meaning of magic, which could not possibly have existed in earlier periods because it is elaborated in reaction to the disenchantment of the world. For many and perhaps most modern Western magicians, the goal of magic is deemed to be personal spiritual development. The perception of magic as a form of self-development is central to the way that magical practices have been adopted into forms. One significant development within the Western magical practices has been, and I'm quoting this, has been sex magic. This was a practice promoted in the writings of Paschal Beverly Randolph. And it subsequently exerted a strong interest on occultist magicians like Crowley and Theodore Russ. Wow. Okay. I don't know. Interesting. Here's I have 10 supposedly historical people who were real life magicians. So if you think magic is just Dungeons and Dragons and Chris Angel, you're sadly mistaken. Chris Angel is so awesome though, isn't he? Magic is totally real and was totally practiced by totally real people. Okay, totally. Who lived in history. Here are just a few who lived, they're real life wizards and sorcerers who use magic for a lot more than just party tricks. So, are we ready? Nicholas Flamel. The 13th century scribe was known throughout Paris for his fine manuscripts, but it took a few centuries for people to realize a few books of alchemy were accredited to Flamel. These books included an introduction which casually mentioned that Flamel had also created the Philosopher's Stone, a magic item that could turn lead into gold. After researching a mysterious book in an unknown language he had deciphered. Not bad for a 13th century scribe, huh? He was credited with creating the Philosopher's Stone. So there you go. Roger Bacon. He's a 14th century monk. Was one of the leading scientific minds of his day. He figured out how to fit Aristotle's philosophy and scientific theory into Christianity. That's no small feat, let me tell you. And he actually sent it to the Pope. He's considered to have figured out the ingredients of gunpowder and was a leading researcher of optics and lenses. He was also said to have predicted cars, planes, and submarines. Admittedly, all of this was probably easier since he was also said to have a giant talking robot head that could answer any question. So there you go. Michael Scott. Michael Scott was a wandering scholar and priest who traveled the world in the early 1200s. He learned, in addition to learning Greek, Latin, Arabic, and Hebrew, he studied alchemy, astrology, and may have helped Fibonacci create his favorite sequence. In his off hours, he would turn covens of witches into stone. There you go. There's a pastime for you. In his off hours, apparently he would turn witches into stone. I'd like to see that. That would be really cool, actually. I don't know about that, though. But supposedly this actually happened. Let's see, what else did he do? He fought demons, of course, and they'd kick back with friends by having spirits bring them meals from the kitchen of the French and Spanish courts. So this guy was really supposed to be into it here. But tragically, all this magic got him stuck in the level of hell reserved for wizards, as noted by Dante in his Divine Comedy. So this guy, Michael Scott, he would turn covens of witches into stone. He fought demons and kicked back with his friendly spirits bringing him food from the kitchen. So there you go. I'd like that. Bring me coffee, right? Okay. William II de Sole. He was a Scottish border noble. He actually joined the English court in the 1300s, but switched sides during the war. Unfortunately, he was caught plotting to steal the Scottish throne of King Robert, confessed to his treason, and was killed. Supposedly, De Soul was taught black magic by Michael Scott, whom we just talked about, who fought the demons and turned covens of witches to stone. So supposedly, this guy here, William II de Soul, was taught black magic by him. And he was even given a magical familiar, a goblin named Robin Redcap. And of course, this is in true Dungeons and Dragons style. Some historians think later peoples confused William II with Sir Ranulph de Soul, who was supposed to have practiced black magic. But it doesn't matter. Neither one of them had a particularly happy ending. So this guy was supposed to have been taught by that Michael Scott the black magic. Rabbi Judah Loew. He was elected chief rabbi of Poland in 1592. He was a tireless fighter for the Jewish community, including fighting his fellow Jews who would needlessly denounce other families. It's easy to see how he developed a reputation for protecting his people, even before the Holy Roman Emperor decided that the Jews inside the ghettos of Prague needed to be expelled. The rabbi created a golem to protect his people. Hi, Stephen. So this guy, as rabbi, he created a golem to protect his people. There you go. I need a golem. And to kick anti-Semitic butt. Made of clay, the golem came to life because the rabbi knew how God created Adam, and it was sort of the same thing. The golem could also turn invisible and summon other spirits from the afterlife. So all in all, it was pretty effective. Except on the Sabbath, which of course the rabbi let it take the day off. So there you go. This guy created golems. And now these are real historic people, okay, that were totally magic. John Dee and Edward Kelly. Dee was advisor and tutor to the first Queen Elizabeth, who desperately wanted to communicate with angels and demons. Kelly was a medium who could summon angels and demons and talk to them. Together, they made quite the occult dynamic duo. Dee really wanted to learn the language of the angels, and with help from Kelly, a new language was in fact provided to Dee. Any similarities to other languages were, of course, because the angels were speaking the original language. Okay, this was before the Tower of Babel shenanigans. Eventually, a rift developed between the two, and Kelly really wanted to start devoting his time to transmuting lead into gold, but Dee was stuck on the angel thing. Strangely, at that point, an angel told Kelly that he and Dee should totally have sex with each other's wives. I'm sure that happened. And Dee stopped talking to the angels at that point. But he still let Kelly sleep with his wife, just in case, because an angel told him to. Seriously? Yeah, I'm not sure they should even be in the category of real magic. The next one is Baal Shem. He was also known as Rabbi Havam Samuel Jacob. His feats were many. He could teleport items. He once saved a synagogue from burning down by writing a Hebrew word on it. Could go weeks without food or drink. And could fill his cellar instantly with coal with a simple spell. He could instantly tell where treasure was hidden. And if he sold something to a pawnbroker, that item would fly back to him later that day in what seems to be a magical interpretation for an unflattering Jewish stereotype. Once, when he was traveling in a carriage and a wheel fell off, the wheel followed him all the way to his destination. After nearly getting burned at the stake for sorcery, he decided to move to London in the 18th century. So this guy has a real reputation. He could teleport items. Okay, does this... I think maybe he knew about portals and, how to do that. So that's a real possibility. So he was able to maybe teleport items that way. But he saved a synagogue from writing by writing a Hebrew word on it. Fill a cellar instantly with coal. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think magic is really real.